Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 5, Chapter 48. The Poet's Role. Today we heard these poets reading out and explaining their compositions to us. It is a profitable experience to listen to them, for the poet is able to discover more than the ordinary thinker. The poet is called in the scriptures Kavi, a word which also means Mantra Drishta, he who is able to visualize essential spiritual formula in his intuitive moments. The Bhagavad Gita describes the Lord as Kavi. The Kavi or poet is aware of the past, the present and the future. Trikala Jnani. He transcends time. He can dip into the past, roam in the present and peep into the future, for he has sharper vision than ordinary men. Hence he is called Sarvagna, the all-knowing, Krantadarshi, he who sees the step which has to be taken next, he who is always in advance of current opinion or attitudes. The Lord is the poet and his poem is all this. Poets share the divine quality of knowing and recognizing the next step. The Lord as Kavi is also Purana, ancient, primeval. Anushasitara, the lawgiver who lays down lines and limits. The responsibility of poets is very great, proportionate to the status given to them in the scriptures and in the Gita. But instead of being Sarvagna and Purana and Anushasitara, they are satisfied with a scrap of knowledge, a superficial polish and the convenient and profitable role of tamely following the whims of the people. The great poets of the past harped on spiritual disciplines and the heights of spiritual realization to which they led. They elevated and inspired spiritual adventure. Pichaya Shastri spoke in his poem of this aspect of Bharatiya culture, this stream of spiritual aspiration that flows from the Vedas and the Upanishads, down the Puranas, the Bhagavata, Ramayana and Mahabharata in order to fertilize the divine urge in man. Eternal problems that arouse man's enthusiasm. It was mentioned by some speakers that the Western scholars revealed the grandeur and glory of the Upanishads to us. I do not appreciate our relying on scholars, however eminent, to explain to us the meaning and significance of our sacred scriptures. For what can scholars know of the bliss of practicing them? There is no use blaming the long years of rule by the West for the neglect of Sanatana Dharma as some others do. We must accept responsibility for this ourselves. The rulers did not induce us to give up our Dharma. We did it out of our own false sense of values, out of our own weak faith. Poems that deal with the fundamental problems of life and death, truth and delusion, virtue and vice, will last for centuries and will help man in all climes, for they harness man and harness man at all times. Problems of exterior living change and get changed. So, when poems deal with them, they are short-lived. Prakriti and Paramatma, creation and creator, are like the two halves of a bean, and seedlings sprout from between them. The problems of adjustment that man has to make when he struggles with creation to discover the Creator are also external problems that arouse the enthusiasm of man. External nature can be inhibited, negatived. It ceases at a certain stage of sadhana, though no one can say when it began. It has no basic reality, though it has validity up to a certain stage. So it cannot be dismissed from attention, nor can it be accepted as eternally valid. So it is neither true, Satya, nor false, Asatya. Hence, it is called Mithya, something that is partly true, Sat, and partly false, asat. Poets are the pioneers who mark out the road for human progress along the lines of love and unity. Love which binds them with all creation and unity of all beings in God. Poets must regain their own health. One pernicious disease has now begun to infect writers and poets in all countries. The disease which scorns all that is ancient and well tested by time, which carps and criticizes all that is revered by others. Flimsy foppery, fiery cynicism. These are held to be modern and modish, that is the literary fashion now. But it is doing great harm to the rising generation, for it perverts their tastes and degrades their ideals. He who adores the past is considered a coward who has no courage to chalk out a new path for himself. He who indulges in some new antic is acclaimed as a genius. He gets a whole host of imitators. He who throws mud on established beliefs is a hero. He who tries to support them is a poltroon. Poets must try to escape from this disease. They must regain their own health and give health-giving stuff to the people. They must not infect the people with their agitation and worry, their fears and doubts, their anxieties and superstitions. They must rid themselves of at least anger, for writings steeped in anger are bound to be false and fear-creating. Vishwamitra was upset that, in spite of years of asceticism, his great rival, Vashishta, addressed him only as Rajarishi and not by the coveted appellation Brahmarishi. So he crouched stealthily behind the seat of Vashishta one moonlight night, when he was teaching a group of disciples determined to kill him with the sharp sword he had taken with him. He sat unseen amidst the bushes for a moment to listen to what Vashishta was telling them. What was his surprise when he heard Vashishta describing the charming moonlight and comparing it to the heart of Vishwamitra. Cool, bright, curative, heavenly, universal, all-pleasing. The sword fell from his grasp. He ran forward and prostrating at the feet of his rival. He held the feet. Vashishta recognized Vishwamitra and accosting him, "O Brahmarishi, rise up." He lifted him onto his own seat. A guide must free himself from hate and malice. Vashishta explained that he could not be styled as Brahmarishi so long as the ego persisted in him. When the swelling of the head disappeared and he fell at the feet of his rival, he became entitled for the honor he no longer coveted and so deserved. He who aspires to be a guide of the people must first free himself of selfish propensities of hate and malice. His words must be sweet to the ear and food to the spirit. They must be valued by all men as the panacea they need. If one is not capable of this high poetry, one must try to reach that height by purifying one's nature and clarifying one's outlook on this world and the next. Prashanti Nilayam, Dasara, October 6, 1965. Do not contemplate on death. It is just an incident in life. Contemplate on God, who is the master of all life. Beware of him all through life. Shri Sathya Sai Baba.